we seem to be straddling spring break and end of the year festivities. So I totally understand. And work priorities. Please don't worry. But do check in. Give us a little voice message or a something. Let us know, how did your morning be? If you cannot. Hello there. We will get started shortly. Welcome, welcome. Happy
Hi.
Friday, everyone. Hello, hello. We'll get started in just a bit. This was a big chapter. You guys excited to talk about it?
Mm.
All right. We are almost to that time. Give folks a few more seconds to join us. And I'll let the cat out while I'm waiting. Who knows how to get my attention if just paw the screen a little bit and I'll be up like that, right? Okay, let's take a nice comfortable seat, close your eyes and begin to settle in. Take a big deep breath in and sigh it out. Another big full breath in and release it out. Arrive in your body. And as you do, begin to lengthen your inhalations and lengthen your exhalations. And on your inhale, notice the expansion of your belly, of your rib cage, the lifting of your collarbones. And on your exhale, noticing what it feels like to fully exhale down to the bottom of your breath. And then noticing if you can maybe push out a little more air, holding at the bottom of your exhale for just a beat and breathing back in. So allow yourself a few big, full, deep breaths just like this, with your awareness and your attention anchored, centered on the breath. And then set your intention for our time together today, holding that intention in your mind's eye. And then letting it go. And when you're ready, slowly opening your eyes, coming back to this place from wherever it is that you just went. Grab your journal and take a moment to reflect on the last week and how your morning pages went, how your artist date went. So just reflect. If you weren't able to do morning pages, just reflect on where that resistance was, what got in the way. Why was that thing that got in the way more important, or why did you let it become more important? Why was the resistance more important? If you did the morning pages, what came up for you in those morning pages? Did they feel like they flowed? Were they stale? What was the quality of the morning pages? Your artist date, did you do it? Did you not? Was there resistance? Was there not resistance? What did you learn or discover within that time? Okay, who wants to share first?
Again.
Sue, great.
So my morning pages were off a little bit this week. It's funny when I think about, what got in the way or what I allowed to get in the way. The first day that it was off, I just got up in the morning and was just on to do packing for my move and just never came back to it. And then the second day was Easter, and I just put priority on being with Julian and just not doing it. So it was interesting to actually like write that out. It's like, what was more important? Um, and then the artist date, I have not been intentional, like super intentional about creating that time for myself, which is kind of funny because the alchemy of the spirit cards that I just got, the one this morning was about really embracing your inner child and, going back and doing those super fun things. But I did have some really good time this week. I did a floral arrangement class, which was fabulous, and that was a couple of hours. I had a long walk with another friend and had a lot of laughs, and then spent a good amount of time meditating and on my PEMF mat. And so I feel like I'm getting this like time with myself and doing these creative fun things, but I'm not as intentional as I feel like I should be in embracing the more creativity or more fun.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Will you pick who goes next?
Oh, I don't know. Now I have to look at who's here. Gallery. Oh, let's go with Marcy.
I'm glad you went first because that helped me feel a little bit better. Yeah, I think for me, I was trying to put it into a frame of failing forward. So, like knowing that I'm not there yet, and really asking myself, how do I make this time more sacred? And because it's not that I don't want to do it, it's just this, for some reason, I don't put myself first. So like work stress is coming up, or, we went on a trip, which was amazing. So I felt like I had taken this time for myself already. And so I didn't do the things I needed to do on this. And that was time for myself on this trip that we took, but it wasn't time just for myself. And so just, I think how to be more intentional. And does that mean I have to become part of the 5 a.m. club, which I am just not a morning person, but I almost feel like I need to. So
Do you see
when you
Sarah?
see
She's
me
like,
like with my hair all over the place. So, and for Sue, I have like all kinds of notes that I just jotted down. I need to know about the floral arrangement class, the alchemy of the spirit cards, and the PEMF mat question mark. So like offline, I want to hear about those things. Oh yeah.
well, so you might need to put a link to the PEMF mat in the chat box here. But the Alchemy of the Spirit, this deck is Oracle deck is what she's talking about. And I learned about this from Monica, who's on the call, and she'd been posting on Instagram her card of the day, and I'm like, that deck, I have to have that deck. And so I wrote about it then on the in my 5 things Friday. I don't know if you get that, but it was in there a couple, like I think it was last week Friday. If you have that, the link to it is in there. Um, yeah. So, and Marcy, will you pick who goes next?
I'm gonna say Sarah.
So I do my morning pages, never in the morning. I still co-sleep with the toddler, so there's like no way I'm getting up early because then she will just get up early with me. So then we would just be up early, everyone together. So no, thank you. But I do like fit it in here and there. I will do it while I'm eating lunch, or I will do it right before bed often, because that is a moment that I have usually where only one much older child is with me, so she can, deal for a minute while I journal. But I don't know. I don't, just in my life, I don't have a chunk of time where I can sit down and write it all. So I get it done, but it's in these like little bits here and there. And I feel that's how my artist dates go too. Like, it's very hard for me to find a chunk of time where I'm by myself, but I will have these moments, right? Like I'll be with the chicks that I have, and I'll just be like totally engrossed in them and like really, I don't know, like I find that inspiring, like just soaking up what they're doing and all of that. And even today on my drive home from dropping the kids off at school, I live out of town from where I work and my kids go to school. I saw seriously, like back to back, a duck and her ducklings cross the road, and then a doe and her fawns cross the road, like within seconds of each other. Like saw that happening, and then I'm like, well, what else is in the road? And it was the deer, and like there they go. So, and I don't think that counts as an artist date, but it's like a moment of beauty or awe that I like really stop for and just like really focus on. So once again, I'm getting them in, but in these like little blips and chunks here and there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's wonderful. And I think the small moments are so important. In the most strange place, at least it feels like a strange place, I had a great time at the post office yesterday. That like the post people were like cutting up with me and nobody else was in there. And like I had a whole bunch of packages I was sending out. And like I even said, I was like, man, pockets of joy at the post office. And they're like, yeah, you are the only one. Please fill out a survey. So we had a good old time. Yeah. Sarah, will you pick who's next? Glimmers. Yes. Were we talking about that here last week, or were we talking about glimmers in Vision to Action yesterday? I can't remember. Yeah.
T.
I'm so glad that this week it was like I had things to do in my morning pages from the book. Like there was a lot of writing things from the book. So I did that because I just haven't felt like doing my pages. And part of me feels like I'm getting things out as I need to, but also then as I didn't do an artist date, I just didn't, and that I was like, there's definite resistance there. I realized I really feel like a teenager right now. I feel like, fuck you, I'm not gonna do your artist date, whatever. And the other day when we a lot of times when we go to this little bar where we play cribbage or going to the Trader Joe's, we drive right by my high school, which is a girls' Catholic school right across from boys' Catholic school. So we drive by them both. The other day, I like literally flipped. Study was driving, and I just flipped them off the whole time. And the campus. The one campus is kind of small, the girls, but the boys is like a huge football campus, so it's forever. So they're like a block and a half, these two campuses. And I really feel like a cranky teen. And then this morning, I had a drinking dream, which I haven't had in a long damn time. And I had the dream of where I'm in a car and I'm supposed to be driving it, but I'm in the back seat, except in this case, I was in the back seat of someone else's car and I was like facing the wrong way and my seatbelt was on and I was drunk and I was like, this is all very weird. So I've been clean and sober for 7 years, so that's why a drinking dream is odd for me. So something's going on, and I think I'm avoiding the pages and avoiding the artist day because I don't want to know what's going on. And yeah, so it's interesting. I'm very glad I showed up here today. I very confidently showed up yesterday for V2A. I just confidently showed up at 9 o'clock.
Instead of 8 o'clock. I saw
That
that.
it started at 8 o'clock.
We missed you.
But anyway, so something's going on. I'm glad now that we had this time where I could write it out, and seeing those two things together go, oh, honey, you're having some sort of, I don't want to, you can't make me moment.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Will you pick who goes next?
Rachna.
Hi. So my morning pages, I didn't come last week because we were a spring break and we had lots of things going, and my morning pages were also not paging at all. So this week I came in with, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it amazingly well. And I started writing it in the morning as compared to the first week where I was doing it in the evening. And I realized I like writing it in the morning more, because in the evening it was getting more of like reflective, how the day went, and I was just cribbing and crying about the whole day more, and just felt like whining, which is kind of nice, but also like it's taking away, I felt personally, from what it needs to be doing, to be the creative outlet and everything else. So I felt like morning I was a better person who's not the cribbing, crying, whining person from last night. I don't even know who that person is. So in the morning I got up and before I don't know, I think I've put things in place where my daughter doesn't need me that early, for at least she gives me 15 minutes of time where she's doing her own stuff. So I have like carved in that 15 minutes of I'm going to write it then. So I think it's more creative, and I feel like there's more things that I want to do and more things I want to accomplish, which I'm writing more than just cribbing and crying. So I feel like morning is definitely better. Artist date, I haven't had time at all. It's just been, I honestly thought once I quit work, I'll have so much time for myself, and I've not had time for it at all. Like Sarah was saying, I chunks of time that I find, I'm just like, I just want to sit. And we have people visiting, my in-laws are visiting for 2 months, and they're at home, and I have no free time to myself where I just sit. I feel guilty when I'm not sitting with them because I feel like they're bored, so I need to constantly entertain them. So creatively, I've been constantly entertaining them with talking and picking up all these, I don't know, pulling out topics from wherever. So that's my creative thing I'm going to go with. But other than that, I've had no time to sit and do anything. But I did make a list of what I want to do and do those things. And one of which was I want to, for my health and go to the gym, which I've been carving time for every day for the week for an hour. So that's that I feel like has been really helpful. So I got
That's
that.
awesome. Do you think your in-laws would do anything creative with you?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think my mother-in-law would. She would. Like, yeah, yeah, definitely. Because they are. My father-in-law is creative by himself. Like, he's doing things in the yard. He painted something. He built something, and he gets a project, and he's doing it all by himself, though not collaboratively, but he does it. But we have to give him the project. My mother-in-law also will do. But yes.
Mhm. Yeah, I wonder if you could like go do something like you and your mother-in-law could do like an artist date or something together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
so artist date, but
um,
yes, that's a great idea too. I have to explore.
it's so house guests are so challenging. I feel like it's so challenging to like carve out your creative space when house guests are there, and 2 months of house guests is just it's a lot. Yeah. So,
Yeah, we're almost 1 month in, so
okay.
As an introvert, the peopling for 2 months is like making me break out in hives right now thinking of it. I'm like,
That's
I
how I
cannot be
feel.
with people for 2 months. I love them, but go away.
Yeah.
no, I'm
Um,
an extrovert. I took a test and I was like 98% extroverted, and even that was I'm like, even this is too much for me.
Rachna, will you pick who goes next?
Chandni?
Um, I did my morning pages all last week, but I just feel behind because I didn't read chapter like the week 3. So I didn't what T was saying, I didn't do journaling based on that. So I'm just looking over this chapter and it looks very interesting, but I just I feel behind. I feel like I didn't do it. But I'll
Don't worry, you're not behind. You can take it at any pace, and I promise since we're gonna be discussing chapter 3, you are gonna get a
yeah,
good
that's why I came today. I
teaser.
was like, at least I'll hear people talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my week went good. It was I could see a shift in my morning pages from just berating myself to I don't know, just thinking ahead. Like what can I do? What do I need to do? And they are also getting longer from 2 pages and extending to 3 pages. So and I just feel that they have been more grounding also. Like it just feels like a good ritual to get back to, get up in the morning. I try to wake up 30 minutes before everybody does. So that's been, I feel super coming back to myself kind of thing. So it's been good.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love hearing what everybody's been up to. Kelly or Monica, I don't know if either of you can, but if you want to share anything and off camera, like coming on camera, you can. If you can't, okay. Monica's got a bad connection. Monica, if you want to put anything in the chat box, please don't hesitate. Same with you, Kelly. Either way works great. Okay, that's totally fine. And okay, so now take a look, just grab your book and just do a flip through of chapter 3 really quick and just try to revive your memory of what you read and what stands out to you about this chapter or what kind of struck you about this chapter. And then we'll discuss momentarily. So I just want to give you a moment. I have so much of this chapter underlined and highlighted and noted and different colors, which meant different years. And So, who wants to go first around this chapter? I'll tell you before we even dive into it that this is one of my favorite chapters of the whole book. It's really high on my list. I love thinking and talking about anger. And synchronicity. There's just a lot in this particular chapter. Shame. It's like all of the stuff that's really important. So who wants to go first? Who has something that really stood out to them about this chapter?
I'll say on the chapter starting with anger.
Mhm.
As a 51-year-old woman that's going through perimenopause and wants to murder people on the daily, whether it's people road rage or my children or my husband or anyone that I meet in the grocery store. I liked the positive kind of way that she reframes anger. Like anger points the direction, use it as fuel to take actions we need to move where the anger points us, which I thought that is a healthier way to think about anger than just the way that anger is usually thought about. Like this seemed like a healthier way to use the anger to get you to the next place.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
I think this is also really interesting, the anger piece. Like, I'm teaching my kids, right, what to do when they're angry. And I think that part is really tricky to be like, it's okay that you're angry. That's not the problem. It's that you can't take it out on other people. And I like this
Mhm.
idea of using it as direction. Like, oh, look, it's telling us something.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing not to take anger out on other people, though, isn't it? Yeah. Tricky.
Well, I think that's just a different message. And I don't know how it was for everyone else, but like when I was a kid, being angry was not okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like just the act of being angry was like, that's not okay. Even if I didn't take it out on anybody. So
I think
that's the piece where like trying to help them be like, being angry is fine. Like be
Right.
angry, do
Right.
angry things, but don't, punch your brother in the head.
Right. Well, somehow, like, I think we weren't validated in a lot of feelings, right? Like, that's just changed, and we hopefully have learned to validate all the spectrum of feelings in our children. But yeah, I definitely relate to that. Like, you weren't allowed to show emotions for sure.
I think in a lot of society, it's still the way it maybe was for most of us in our childhoods, where it's like not okay to be angry, especially as women, not okay to be angry. Like men somehow I find have gotten the message that maybe it wasn't okay for them to have emotions, but anger is not an emotion. And so it's okay for men to be angry, but it's not okay for women to be angry, is like another layer of this. Of what I feel like at least the messaging that I received is like men's anger is okay, but women's anger is dangerous. Yeah, T.
When I was doing the finishing the sentence stems, there were some really interesting things that came up. One was that two of my favorite things when I was a child were a little plastic record player that we had, and then a cash register. And I was like, oh my God, that's so me. Like one of the things I love. I love music and money and order. Like I would dress up in my like fancy clothes, which was really hard to get me to wear if you were forcing me into them. But I would put on like an outfit and put the playroom in order. And I remember the cash register, because it made like that noise, was always a part of that. And I like that. And then I wrote, I'm afraid if I start dreaming, I will dream past the capacity of my body and my heart will crack again. And when I wrote that, I wrote, oh, I want to kiss my own temple and rub my own back in comforting circles. I hadn't realized that. And that was like, oh, honey, that is very sad. Like that's angel pie. I'm so sorry. You know? Like that's hard. And that makes sense. you know?
It also makes me wonder what the dream is that you're afraid will be past the capacity of your own body.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. What else in chapter 3? Before we move on from the anger too far, I want you to do a little, I'll do a little exercise. So I want you to take a moment and pause, and I want you to think about the last 1 to 3 times you were angry. So in your journal, grab your journal and write down the last 3 things you were really angry about. Where that, like, maybe for us women, it was like Kalima was out. I think she's been hanging out at my house, actually. And then next to those 3 places, I want you to see if you can identify what the anger was trying to tell you. Where was it trying to lead you? What did it want you to see? One thing I wrote in the margins a few years ago after rereading this chapter, was that I think this is me and not her, but it could be her somewhere in there. I like to think of it like our creativity needs an ignition switch. And this anger is part of our creativity's like ignition. It's the spark, right? It can oftentimes be a spark. It's not the only way our creativity can be sparked. But if we think of it as like, oh, there is something deep and rich here that we need to touch. Like we want to touch the fire, not back away from the fire on this one. Does anyone want to share what they feel like their most recent anger was trying to tell them? You don't have to, but if anyone wants to share, I do want to give space.
You know, when I think of mine, the things I've been most angry about have been in response to someone else's words to me, or yeah, I mean, well, both of them were to me. And what stands out to me about that is that it was like my response to it was clearly, you know, and I can still feel it, is that speak your voice and don't let anybody else, trying to find the right words for it. But, you know, I think historically in my life, I've allowed other people to kind of dictate what the circumstance was going to be. And it was like, you know, don't take this, and speak your voice and stand up and, you know, follow my own intuition and compass, I guess. So yeah, it's interesting to look at it that for me, it's been interesting to look at, like, you know, what were those things and where is that guiding me?
Yeah, and what do you want to do with it or not do with it? Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, Chandani.
I feel mine are what Sue was saying, similar, but in the sense that not keeping my promises to myself. So say if I say that I'll take this time out for myself to study or paint or do anything, but I don't do it because I feel I have to do cleaning or cooking or something. and then I'll be mad at others. And then I feel it's more like that because I'm not keeping a promise to myself. And then I find it's not an excuse, but also, like, I think we talked about it last year sometime, Alicia, when you were saying, like, what are your values? So if cleaning is more important or this is more important. But then I'll be like, oh, Monique is getting to do this because he always he'll go and exercise no matter what. He'll do things and he'll not feel guilty, but I'll feel guilty doing certain things. I'll be like, oh, I should be putting Gia to sleep at this time. But it's okay if she doesn't sleep for another 30 minutes. It's not the end of it's okay. So stuff like that, I think I get mad at others, I get angry at others, but it's truly my own anger, like anger at myself for not being true to myself.
That was so helpful. Thank you. Because that landed for me in a big way. That I've a long time been a people pleaser, and I think where that anger, my response to it is, I don't have to do that. I don't have to please others, and I should be pleasing myself and being more assertive in how I respond. And it doesn't mean I have to respond in anger or anything else. It's that I just have to be true to me.
Yeah, Rachna.
It's so funny. I was going to say similarly because, I was telling you, my in-laws are here and the expectation is so much. And I realize the expectation is more from me and not from them because we tend to put our expectations on ourselves so much. And I get angry at them because I was like, oh my God, I have to do this for them, I have to do that for them. And it's not. They don't expect all those things from me. It is I who expect, I want to do something for them. And of course, I was able to for the first 3 days. Then the fourth day, I came back to me and I was like, I cannot. And then the funny thing about all this is I understood it. And then I was walking with my husband and I was telling him, this happened, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this for your parents. And he's like, so big deal. And it's not even a problem for him. It's like a non-problem, like he doesn't understand it. And I was like, well, I'm just telling you because I was expecting myself to do it, and if you had anything. And he's like, nobody cares. It's like, just do it. But even then it's like you're seeking that validation, right? To say like, I went in telling him that I've made peace with it, that I'm not gonna do it. The past 15 years I've done it. This year we've been married for 15 years. I'm going to stop doing these things. And he was like, yeah, you keep going above and beyond, which is not required. And I was like, yeah, and I'm not going to do it. And I've made peace with myself. And he's like, I get it. But even then, it's just like, you just need that validation. I need him to say that. But I'm like, but I don't want your validation. It's such a funny thing. And then the last I was angry was with my daughter. She's 11. And I've realized that the most things I get angry about are sometimes when she does things which are very much what I would do in a situation, which is not right. So it's a very reflective anger. Like I see it because immediately when I get angry and I'm like, what is she doing that I would normally do in this situation, which is not healthy? And then I'd get mad at her because she's doing it. So honestly, I'm just mad at myself. So, you need to parent yourself first and then parent the child. I can't. I'm still parenting myself, so the child takes a little bit longer, so the anger is out and about. So still learning.
So along this topic, when I've been in therapy, it has been said to me on more than one occasion that anger is I want to say a secondary emotion. It's actually not the primary emotion, meaning like the anger is what like presents first, but there's typically something else under that. So it might be deep hurt or, like whatever it is. And I always try to think of like, okay, if I'm angry, that's a secondary emotion. So all right, let's dig a little deeper. Like what's under this that I'm really feeling? because that's the thing that's easiest to present, or at least is now that I'm in perimenopause. Maybe it wasn't 5 years ago, but like, so those are interesting pieces of it as well. Okay. What else in this chapter?
I haven't read the chapter, but just reading this line under synchronicity, answered prayers are scary. And I feel that's so true because sometimes I would want something and like say I want a different job. But deep down I'm like do I want that just that change from your comfort zone to a different? And I feel like that's why it's not happening, because in my logical mind I'm thinking that I want a new job that pays better or something. But because I'm so much like I have so much comfort in my job, I can do this, I can do that. So is it like, do I truly want a new job, and what am I doing for it? So I'm not taking any small actions, or I'm not even so I feel like even prayers, like when we say something we want versus what we truly want, like there's a distinction.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I have that underlined and highlighted and annotated like as well, because unanswered prayers are super scary. And I'm wondering if you can like think about when was the last time where you really felt that, like where maybe you got something you wanted and it was too scary, or you like even thinking about wanting it is too scary because getting it answered would maybe be terrifying. Does that spark anything in anybody else?
I'm certainly, I mean, I just did a job change, so I am certainly feeling that very much right now. And it was an answered prayer to leave a place that was pretty toxic. And it's a much bigger job. And so you kind of, it's exciting because I'm challenged every day. And also it's terrifying every day. Like, am I qualified enough to do it? So I'm definitely in the answered prayers are very scary every day.
Yeah. I have that as well right now, sort of. I've got that residency at Green Hill starting next week, and I'm like over the moon about it, but I'm also terrified about what is it going to be like to create art in someone else's space, to have to do it on a deadline, to have to do it in front of other people. And like I have no problem making ugly art at home by myself, but what if I make ugly art in front of other people at Green Hill, God forbid. Like all of those things are terrifying. And God, isn't it great we get to grow? She said with her tongue in her cheek. Monica said, getting my visa and moving to Switzerland, miraculously getting a job in English as an expat within a month. Most people take a year to find a job. Yeah, Monica, you are living my most terrifying dream right now. Maybe not the Switzerland part, but like another country.
That's exactly what I just said too. It's like, I think about that all the time. It is my dream. And it's like, oh, what if that actually, like, what if it happens? Like that changes so much.
Where would you live out of the country, Sue?
I'm a little torn right now between, like, France is where I've always thought I would end up, and I'm really leaning toward Portugal right now. So I don't know.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Anybody else with synchronicity?
I have a lot of examples of good stuff like we've been talking about, like new jobs and things like that. But there's also things that feel like a bad thing, like relationships ending or things like that. But they're also some sort of synchronicity or answered prayer there. Like, I need more time for myself. And then like a relationship crumbles. And it's like, it's a bad feeling, but it got what I wanted.
True, Sarah. That is so true. I'm just looking through what I have highlighted here. I think there's something to, I wish there was more scientific exploration done around the synchronicity piece of things. And like what she says on page 65, she's talking about Jung and how following his own inner leadings brought him to experience and describe a phenomenon that some of us prefer to ignore, the possibility of an intelligent and responsive universe acting and reacting in our interests. And I think that as I'm reading Joe Dispenza's Supernatural, thank you, Sue, for that nudge to look at that again. He does have a lot of science actually around that. But I do think that it's easy for us to think of like, oh yeah, like the worst case is going to happen, but it's just as easy for best case to happen or wilder than our wildest imagination happening if we're open to the possibility of it, because there is this intelligent universe acting in reaction to what we're putting out in the world vibrationally and energetically, and the reality that we're creating in the neural pathways that we're reliving or trying to actively change. So then the follow up in the next paragraph where it says, say instead that you are doing it, then fasten your seatbelt, the most remarkable things follow. That can be true, but it requires ungripping the steering wheel, and that's not easy. And then on page 66, she says, the truth is, it is difficult to avoid walking through the many doors that will open. Turn aside your dream and it will come back to you again. Get willing to follow it again, and a second mysterious door will swing open. The universe is prodigal in its support. We are miserly in what we accept. I just love that. I love everything about that. And, you know, I think it's worth noting and focusing on. Okay, what about shame? Did anything come up for you all in the section on shame? I think that in this one where it says shame is a controlling device, shaming someone is an attempt to prevent the person from behaving in a way that embarrasses us. And I think that's really important. It makes me wonder if shame, like where shame has shown up for each of us in that way. In this section on shame, it also, if you've read Women Who Run with the Wolves, Bluebeard is kind of all about this, right? Like that story of like, don't go open that basement door, where his shame is, right? Like where his problems are. And if she's made to feel shameful for doing that, you know, like that's something that embarrassed him, not you know, not her problem. Well, sort of her problem, but not really. So so when we tie this back to creativity, and she says at the bottom of page 67, the act of making art exposes a society to itself. It brings things to light. It illuminates us. It sheds light on our lingering darkness. It casts a beam into the heart of our own darkness and says, see? And I think this is really important as we're on this journey, and as some of us might be trying to unlock deeper parts of our creativity, and we've got all of these wounds from the past. I think everybody has creative wounds from the past, so I'm just going to blanketly say that. But when we do that, like when we make it, if we're sharing it with other people, we have to be careful about their reactions, because their reactions could be hitting on something that made them feel embarrassed in some way that makes us feel shame, which that's not ours. That's theirs, that's society's, that's not necessarily ours to carry. And so it's important to be like, if you're going to make something and you're going to put it out in the world and you're going to share it, being prepared to receive other people's reactions. You're never prepared to receive other people's reactions. I'm just going to say that. I've dealt with a lot of that this week even. And in that, people are going to react with what they have capacity for or not have capacity for. And what she says on the next page, at the very top of page 68, when people do not want to see something, they get mad at the one that shows them. That's so true. So true. So just bear that in mind. Yeah, she also says that on the second paragraph of that page, art opens the closet, airs out the cellars and attics. It brings healing. But before a wound can heal, it must be seen. And this act of exposing the wound to air and light, the artist's act, is often reacted to with shame. This is important for us to be aware of, and to, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to get a thicker skin. It just means that we can take what's being said to us with that grain of salt.
I like at the bottom of 68 where it says, he forgot my birthday. Oh, well, no big deal. A lifetime of this kind of experience in which needs for recognition are routinely dishonored teaches a young child that putting anything out for attention is a dangerous act. And that really speaks to me and how I've lived my entire life, really. It's like, no, let me just stay back here. Let me not be noticed. Because there was just a lifetime of that, from early on. So that's big.
I think
And
this is-
underneath, oh, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that what comes up for me a lot here is like people taking things personally that I'm not doing to them. Like they, especially, I'm just gonna throw it out there, my mother. She like, I do things differently, right, than she does them, and she views that as me making a judgment about what she did, and I'm not really. I'm just doing what feels authentic to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that comes up in a lot of areas, whether that's taking time for myself. She didn't do that, so she feels like I'm judging her for that, or wants to shame me for that because she didn't get an opportunity to do that, or didn't make an opportunity to do that. And different things like that I've seen over the years, that it's the shame piece comes in because she feels judged, which is not my intention, but there's some dynamic in play there. Like, I don't know. It feels, I think people, that's their reaction when they're feeling judged or whatever, or that you're telling them that they're wrong, their way was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And underneath what Sue pointed out, the next paragraph says, dragging home the invisible bone is how one recovering artist characterized her vain search for an achievement big enough to gain approval in her family of origin. No matter how big a deal it was, they never seemed to make much notice. They always found something wrong with it. All A's and 1 B's, and that B got the attention. It's like, yeah, so there's just a lot to all of this. And on the next page, buried under, it doesn't matter. The shame lives on, waiting to attach itself to our new efforts, right? And so I think this is where many of us have become workaholics. This is where many of us have, tried to become achievers, right? To find something that hides the shame and maybe makes us feel worthy, be it in friend circles or family of origin or whatever it is, that comes up. I also think it's worth pointing out as well that she says, let me be clear, not all criticism is shaming. In fact, even the most severe criticism, when it fairly hits the mark, is apt to be greeted by an internal aha. If it shows the artist a new and valid path for work, the criticism that damages is that which disparages, dismisses, ridicules, or condemns. This has taken me a long time to kind of parse. Personally, I have a really big reaction to criticism, even the kind of criticism where I get the ahas. And I'm still not fantastic at it, but I'm getting better at hearing the feedback piece of things, because that's important. And it's also helping me learn how to give truly and feedback that can be helpful and not hurtful, right? It's a fine line. It's a work in progress. Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts here? All right, go ahead and take a moment to think about your takeaways from today or from the chapter. And yeah, and we'll share them. All right, who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, Chandani, great.
For me, it was when you said that anger is the secondary emotion. So just to take a step back and think, what's driving this anger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Will you pick who goes next?
Sure. T.
Work with what's there. So it's perfectly fine. I'm gonna take a sulky teenage, I don't want to artist state. Don't know exactly what that's gonna look like yet, but I'm gonna do it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Will you pick who goes next?
Sue.
So the first thing that came to me is like, keep the dream alive and know that I can have and that I deserve the things that I want. And, to listen to my own voice instead of the others who try to beat that down. Like, yeah, I mean, just in so many different ways and in areas that's shown up in my life.
Thank you. Will you pick who goes next?
Oops. Yes. Rachna.
My line is, the universe will reward you for taking risks on its behalf. Just go about it, do it, and things will happen.
Thank you. Will you pick who goes next?
Sarah?
Mine was about tapping into your emotions to use them for direction.
Yes. Thank you.
I enjoy sitting in a room with women and being validated that lifing is hard and everybody's kind of struggling with it in different ways. And sometimes we feel like that we're not good enough or we're being perfectionists, and that brings a lot of shame to me. And it's just really validating to hear that everybody's lifing. So, yeah.
All right, you beautiful women. It's so lovely to spend this time with you and to get to talk to you about creativity and overcoming creative blocks. If you uncover anything interesting, share it in the community. If you bump up against anything that you want to discuss, please share it in our community. Otherwise, I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for being here.